Welcome to this next segment of The Left Wing. We're joined by Desmond Price of Independent Thought and John Cooper of Counterpoint Politics, and I am Erica of Cocktails and Capitalism. And my topic for today is the group No Labels. They are a lobbying group and a nonprofit based in Washington, D.C., that has come out as backing Kirsten Sinema, her run for Senate. And but through a third party. So they are basically, while they were first just a kind of dark money group that was backing politicians, now they are actually putting up candidates um, using, they're putting up Kirsten Sinema as a third party independent candidate through the No Labels Party. And so it's basically like this corporate sponsorship of politicians because the folks that are funding No Labels are largely billionaires or groups that basically represent billionaire interests. Folks like um, Steven Schwartzman, CEO of Blackstone, Louis Bacon, hedge fund CEO of Moore Capital Management, Nelson Peltz, a Trump backer, James Rupert Murdoch, son of Fox News founder Rupert Murdoch, and Harlan Crow, who has been funding Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. And so this group, they are basically they're running third party candidates in spite of the fact that third party candidates never fucking win. You know, this is so remember when basically Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin refused to sign on to the Build Back Better bill and refused to sign on to the infrastructure bill. And everyone was just kind of like pulling their hair out about like, why are they doing this? Like, what is going on? And we had no like real clear explanation for what are the behind closed doors deals that are going on to incentivize her and Joe Manchin to oppose these bills and muck up the agenda of the left in America. And the revelation that No Labels is basically running Kirsten Sinema as a candidate really starts to show kind of some of what might have been going on behind those closed doors. She now has already made over $1 million from these connections through No Labels, through like fundraising events with a lot of the sponsors or a lot of the donors to No Labels. Um, she is she's skyrocketed. She's gotten so much more fame. And then also she's made a lot of money off of this. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I had a lot more to say about this, but maybe I should just open up the discussion and get to more stuff later. What do you guys have to say about this crazy story?
To me, I was wondering, I don't know what the desires of billionaires are. They're basically a different species who I can't put my own personal, I can't step into their shoes and be like, what does this guy want? But like, I don't quite get it. Like as you said, billionaires have tons of influence in American politics. They don't necessarily need a or I mean, they're kind of trying to be a third party, right? Like an official third party,
Hmm.
similar to like like the the Bizarro Fortune Party, a forward party. Like, what is the angle here? Like that's the thing that I was trying to think of when I was researching this. Just like, what do they have to gain from launching Sinema as a candidate for president that they don't have to gain from just backing DeSantis or Trump? Like has backing the Republican Party not been worth it for them? Like how
They're gonna
clearly
keep.
these guys can be
Yeah.
bought. What is the angle? Is really my or do they just want? Is this an Overton window switch? Like try to get a center, even more conservative center party? Like it's very confusing to me what the angle is.
So from what I have read and watched, they it is about trying to both like possibly win an election, but so they're doing a lot of research and polls about like the discontent with both political parties. The fact that so many people don't want to vote for either. And they're looking at that and saying, oh, we could fund a third party candidate that would fuck it up for the Democrats, make it so that there's no way that they can win, and secure then the Trump era tax cuts for billionaires that are already in the books. You know, they would basically get to preserve a lot of these wonderful tax breaks that they already have by just running a candidate who could potentially make it so that Biden does not win. So that is, I believe, like, yeah, the spoiler effect here of running a third party candidate. I mean, if that person was to win, and then they have someone that is completely fully bought by corporate power who is willing to do their bidding in office, that would be great. But I don't think that's what their objective is. I think the objective is to throw the election for the Republican Party through this, you know, dark money group. So they don't have to disclose a lot of the donors except for the past donors, I think. But yeah, Jacobin wrote that No Labels efforts raises the prospect of billionaires using their own ballot line to run handpicked corporatist candidates. Even if the candidates have no shot at winning, their presence could swing elections and affect policy to the benefit of No Labels anonymous donors. So they could get what they want, even if their candidate doesn't win. And, you know, even if, yeah, it's this bizarre scheme to keep the power in the hands of billionaires in America.
Yeah, it's actually an ingenious plot by them, you know, when you really think about it, because if you look at it as in a macro level, right? So they're going around different state houses, doing their best to make sure that the Republican Party is staying, you know, in bed with, you know, corporations, the billionaires of the world, making sure that they get all of their tax breaks any which way they can. But also they're seeing the weakness of the Republican Party from a national perspective. And so the best way to strengthen the Republican Party is actually to weaken the Democratic Party by running these corporate Democrats who they will just basically say, like, these are the real Democrats and Joe Biden's out of touch and he's going too far left by doing the very meager things that Joe Biden has done. So, you know, that's one of the reasons why you saw all that corporate backing coming into, as you were mentioning before, Kyrsten Sinema, Joe Manchin. And we were able to see plenty of reporting through, I think The Intercept was doing plenty of reporting back at that time in 2021, showing the money that was funneling into both Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin's, you know, campaigns. I think from the Chamber of Commerce sent donations to Kyrsten Sinema and to Joe Manchin. Yeah. Joe Manchin was getting kickbacks from the fossil fuel industry. So, you know, running them on this national level, combined with doing things in states like my own in Montana, where we just banned ranked choice voting. So that's cool. So even if you know, are in a sense where you're like, oh yeah, well, we just need to get different voting methods in there so that third parties can run. Well, now states like Montana are banning third parties from basically having access to ranked choice voting. So it's more or less an ingenious scheme by them. And it kind of makes you just wonder, like, what's next? You know, truthfully speaking, like where do we go from here? Because, you know, this was a move that I definitely didn't see coming, you know, as far as what corporations would do next when they're seeing the Republican numbers falling state over state. But yeah, dark, ingenious move by them, truthfully.
I like, as we're having this conversation, just like the wheels of my mind are turning, and just from what we're saying, I actually think that this isn't so much against Democrats, against the Bidens of the world. I think that this is probably actually more of an insurance policy against rising, like, MAGA conservatism, where, you know, as I'm probably the one of us three that spends the most time, you know, on the right wing side of the bubble. They don't like corporations, like especially the MAGA conservatives. They're like, screw billionaires. Like, they kind of, horseshoe theory, you know, they are kind of arriving at some of the right conclusions, just going the wrong path about it.
Yeah.
And if a candidate took hold of that right-wing populism, they could use it to be worse for, you know, corporate interests than even than a Joe Biden, you know. So I could very well see this being, as they want to promote candidates that they can just use as a spoiler effect on either side of the aisle.
Yeah.
And Cinema would be perfect. Is it Cinema? I always
Cinema.
screw her name up.
Cinema.
Cinema, like the
Yeah.
you know, we go to the cinema.
Yeah.
I always screw it up, so I'm like, there's no way that's actually her name.
That's her name.
But yes, like she can be spoiler on either side, and I
Yeah.
guess that's probably what the angle is they need someone who can also control the Republican Party from going too far anti-authoritarian, whatever they call it, you know, too far libertarian, you know, I guess might be the right word, because that is definitely a, you know, you see the factions on the right, that's definitely one of the factions that is definitely anti-corporate. They think that corporatism and capitalism are two different things, which is always a confusing argument, but they don't like corporations, and I can see that being the angle here, to play spoiler on either side.
Yeah, I mean, I might be able to see that a little bit, John, because I know for a fact that, you know, the larger billionaires, they're not big fans of Donald Trump. They're really upset with how he's taken over the Republican Party. I mean, honestly, Ron DeSantis, who we're also talking about this week, I mean, they predominantly chose him to kind of like get things back on track, because Trump has come out against cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare, you know, things of that nature. But I don't know. I guess I can just personally never see the Republicans going against corporations. It just feels like they've been just completely, I guess, like psyoped in the other direction, where they're always making excuses for the corporations, making excuses for big business, claiming that we have to give corporations more money or more tax breaks in order to stimulate the economy. Like, do you actually think the Republican Party will ever be against corporations? I really don't see it.
So Desmond, I would agree with you. However, if you asked me, however many, 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago now, God, will the Republican Party ever elect Donald Trump? I would have said just as confidently, no way. So I think that this is like, is it a probability? No. But is it possible at this point in time that a cult of personality such as Donald Trump could come along, take control of the Republican Party the way that Trump has, and kind of take it to an anti-corporate route, more towards a libertarian mindset? I think it's just as possible as Donald Trump having won the presidency in 2016.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right to point out the way that this capitalizes on the discontent in the right wing. You know, the folks who do who do really want to drain the swamp. You know, they heard Trump saying those things and they're like, "Oh yeah, good, he's an outsider," whatever. Like, I think that this capitalizes on the discontent in both sides of the aisle, and that's the brilliance of it, that they are able to like to wield this power in the future, probably against any politician or any party that becomes a threat to their power as oligarchs in this country, you know. So then if they have this political party where they can run people and they can funnel their dark money into this party because of Citizens United, then, you know, they can basically, this is their trump card for whatever happens in the future, you know,
for lack of a better term.
yeah. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.